Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels, and this is Open Chat. So, thus far, none of my folks who I sent out to link at the very last second have showed up thus far, so this might be me. Oh, there's JFD. All right, I'm going to say hi to everyone in the chat, my token two people. Saw this from Sean B. much earlier. Welcome, Sean B. Welcome, Justice for Depp. Welcome, Mandy G. Welcome to Diamond Knight. Alright, guys. I did send the links out. People may be coming in later. They may not. I simply don't know. So, we'll kind of see as people come in, but for the moment, I'm a wee bit solo. I usually rely on those guys to kind of help me be somewhat entertaining, but be that as it may, I guess I'll go ahead and start off by asking how everyone's doing this weekend. So, how is everybody doing? And by the way, hello, Ginny Gooden. Thank you for coming. So, how is everybody doing? Anything interesting? Well, we got people saying hi to each other. Okay. All right, we'll say hi to people as people are trickling in. But just kind of to rant about mundane things. So, most of my week, I was stuck in what us call center people like to call the stupid queue. So, what is stupid queue? Stupid queue is when you get a bunch of back-to-back just stupid calls. I'm talking about people who call to ask a million questions, never actually be there to buy a product, and they'll use excuses like either I have to talk to my spouse, which is my favorite because why wouldn't you have discussed your purchase before calling a sales line? Or the other favorite, well, I don't have my card with me. Again, why in the name of God are you calling if you don't even have your card with you, a sales line? So I had a good solid 4 days of that, had one really good day. So that's stupid queue. It's the bane of all call center jockeys. Now, we got a few more people coming in, so I'm going to say hey to them. Hello, Elizabeth Me. Hello, Angie C. And folks, right here. So Diamond Knight is thinking about doing a live Audible reading tonight. If she isn't sure. Diamond, if you do decide that, just if it's after the stream, please just send me a tweet. I'll be, of course, there to go ahead and share it. Hello, Angie C. Hello, Media First. So, guys, that's pretty much how my week has gone. Just a long duration of being stuck in stupid queue. Also, during the week, the audios came out for Britney Spears' testimony before the judge in regards to her conservatorship. And I said it on Rob's stream. I did a video about it, and there are people who disagree with me on my stance, but my stance doesn't come from her testimony. My stance on conservatorship comes from experience. I've worked in disability rights for a very long time. I have literally worked for my state's Department of Mental Health. Regardless of what she said during that particular audio, what conservatorship does is it removes a person's right to be able to make any financial, medical, or personal decisions on their own behalf and gives that power over to the conservator. The scary thing about that is it literally gives someone ultimate power and complete control over another person's life. Now, you can argue that sometimes it's necessary, but when somebody has absolute power over another person's life, it breeds an environment for abuse, for over control, for manipulation, for gaslighting. Conservatorship is one of the things that landed so many students at the Judge Rotenberg Center. These kids, especially the minority kids, after reported by their school, would be ripped from their custody of their parents, ward of the state, appointed court-ordered conservators who would then place them into the Judge Rotenberg Center. They couldn't simply just leave, like so many people like to say. Their parents couldn't just simply petition. Now, in her case, I've seen a lot of comments on Twitter. She just needs to run away. She just needs to hire a lawyer. She just needs to do this. She needs to do that. You don't understand the totality of a conservatorship. She cannot just go hire a lawyer, as she is not allowed to make any decisions for herself. She can't just simply get in her car, drive to a lawyer's office, like a certain Miss Thing we all know and loathe, and go get herself a lawyer. She would have to literally get her father's permission in order to go and get a lawyer in order to fight the conservatorship. It is complete control. It's not something somebody can just walk away from. So that has been my point. Hello, Captain Obvious. So, folks, welcome, Captain Obvious. This is her first time on this show. How are you doing today?
I had a bit of a headache all day, but otherwise I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I was kind of going over the whole Britney thing and how a lot of these people commenting who are saying, well, she just needs to go get a lawyer. She just needs to run away. I was explaining that when you have a conservator, that is literally impossible. Legally, you are not allowed to go out and get your own lawyer except by the conservator's say so. You have no legal standing. You are ineligible to vote. You are not allowed to make any personal, medical, legal decisions on your own behalf of any kind. That's why she grabbed this opportunity the way that she did. This might be the one and only time she had that she was able to go ahead and speak on her own behalf. And she grabbed it with both hands, basically. But yeah, it's
Yeah, what
not
do you
as
think
simple.
the judge is going to do?
Depends upon most of these judges, I'll be honest, because I've seen it in disability court, are more inclined to go with the quote unquote non-disabled, non-mentally ill person. And excuses are used of, well, they don't really understand that what's being done is for their best interests. They're not capable of comprehending. That's like some of the people who have commented, it's more complex than that. You don't understand mental issues. Usually caregivers of people with disabilities or mental illness. The fact of the matter is we do comprehend, we do understand, but by the time you're in these conservatorships, the door is already shut. And that's why so many people who are in the disability rights movement have been a part of the whole idea of Free Britney ever since she went under the conservatorship, because all of us are against full conservatorship all the way.
Yeah,
There's
it's insane.
another, it is. It is. And there is another option for people who are in downward spirals other than full control being taken away from them. It's called partial conservatorship, or as it used to be called, partial guardianship. Basically, what that is that person is still allowed to make all of their decisions, but the partial conservator is there to step in if any particular decision is going to be a detriment to the conservatory. And the person actually pick who that is going to be.
Did she have any say? I remember last time she wanted, I think her name was Jody, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
But now she said that, like, Jody has turned against her as well and is trying to control too much.
Yeah, basically, most people in conservatorships don't get a say. Who does have the say is the courts at the end of the day. They are the ones who ultimately get to decide whether or not you are competent enough to retain independence again. And what's problematic with conservatorships is it's pretty damn impossible to prove your competence when your conservator does not give you any leverage to show so that you can show that you can make decisions that are good for you. Some conservators do, and everybody works together, and those are wonderful cases, but they are very few and far between. Most will continue to hammer, like some of these people who are for this conservatorship do. They don't really understand what's going on. It's not abusive. She or he needs these meds, or in the case of the JRC, people who are under court-appointed conservators, they need this treatment. They're a danger to themselves and others.
You think she's a danger to herself?
At this point, no. At one point, possibly. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of celebrity meltdowns. Even the guy we support has trashed hotel rooms in the past. Did anybody try to slap a conservatorship on him?
Very true. Touche.
Okay. Mandy, how did she manage to speak in court? So the court is the ultimate authority. Her dad may be the conservator, but the court can overrule the father. So if the court wants her to come and speak, then she is able to do so. If she wants to appeal the conservatorship, technically she can, but literally she's kind of got shady end of the pool. She has to literally defer to public defenders. She has to tell the court she wants to appeal it, and then they appoint someone if she is not allowed to go and do so for herself. And like I said, with these courts, they are built systematically to be against anyone with a mental illness or a disability. I've seen it. The only time I've seen an easy transition out of conservatorship is when the conservator and the conservatory actually agree.
Actually, going back to the Johnny Depp one, Amber did try to push that on him. She wanted him to settle out of court with ex-judges that she chose, and he had to go to anger management. There was like a whole list of things, and the judge was like, no, we're not playing that.
Right, exactly. No, the fact of the matter is she would have been damn pressed to try and get a conservatorship on him. Before her, his life was extremely private. We know literally about less than a handful of incidents. She would have to have quite a deal of evidence. The difference with Britney is her meltdown was done in public with cameras flashing, whereas Johnny's a homebody, let's face it. And the few times he would snap, which is pretty normal with a neurodiverse diagnosis, I have done it too. we tend to not do it in the public eye. The few times you might see it in the public eye are extremely rare. And yeah, she says her mental breakdown was minor compared to others I've seen. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I've done more. Kind of like when people were yelling at Johnny for banging up the cabinets. That was what we call ADHD snap under mental and emotional strain. And it's pretty common when you have a neurodiverse diagnosis, when you're under that kind of pressure and trauma. I've done it. I've had meltdowns in the past. I will probably have them in the future. They are extremely rare since I've gotten older, but they do still occur. And yes, everybody is entitled to have a meltdown, for God's sake. Being even a normal human being under the types of pressure that both these people were under are entitled to have a meltdown. And this girl, my God, she was younger than even Johnny was when she was thrust into the spotlight. And she had her entire life ruled by Disney, then ruled by a manager, then ruled by her father. And people wonder why she would act out and why she would drink and do things in public with Paris and why she had her freak out. I think the whole thing with Federline was just the final nail in the coffin.
Yeah, Hollywood is like, it's a double-edged sword. They make you crazy and then they're like, see, we told you they're acting crazy now. We told you they were crazy from the beginning. But they're the crazy making, you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, they're the ones that drive you to it. That's why I always said with AH, she was trying to drive him to something. Drive him to suicide, drive him to violence, drive him to look crazy out in public so she can slap on him what Spears' dad slapped on her. Because that would have given her, guys, think about how scary this is. If AH had been granted a conservatorship over Johnny, he might be, I don't want to think about it, because she would have had complete control over his money, over his estates, over his physical person, who he was allowed to see, who he was not allowed to see, where he was able to go, even his career. She would have full control over whether he would go into a movie or make an appearance here or make an appearance there, which is what Spears is going through now. And on top of it, she would be doing all the abuses and the gaslighting and the yelling. It's a horrifying thought. So,
very much.
Again, yeah, think about it. Think about it.
I don't want to think about it.
It's a horrifying thought. And thank God he's been private this long for all these years. And thank God nobody's really ever caught any of those ADHD moments, because my God, we could be having a far more depressing conversation right now.
Does he have an actual diagnosis of neurodiversity?
Yes,
I've never heard that before.
He does have ADHD. He has stated it in court. He takes Adderall. It's in the transcripts of the UK trial, and I think he said it in an interview somewhere before as well. Which, by the way, when people complain he's late all the time because he's drunk and on drugs, actually, ADHD folks do have difficulties with time management. It's part of their diagnosis, literally. So, they can actually bring that up in court if she decides to try and use that as evidence. It is part of his diagnosis. Literally.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Time management, and that's both for autism and ADHD, although for entirely different reasons. Where we go and get hyper-focused, their brains snap from thing to thing so quick that they can become enthralled with something in less than a minute and then contemplate that one thing that they've just got focused on or move to another thing to the point that they don't even realize time had passed and it's already an hour or two later.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine about this just the other day. She was talking about how she wanted to surprise her dad for Father's Day, but she couldn't go to sleep the night before because all she could think about is, I'm going to be late for my dad. I'm going to be late for my dad. And it was just this cycle in her head.
Oh, and Jenny Gooden says here she has ADD and time management is a bit of the struggle at the times. Now, how people like me do it, how I've done it, is I can like read a book or zone into a show. And my mom does this too, by the way. That's why they call it shadow syndrome. She has some traits without having the diagnosis. Is I will zone in on something to the point that I can blank out all of my surrounding environment and hyper focus on it and take in every detail and bring to overdrive to the point that I won't notice the passage of time. So we don't get distracted like with ADHD so much as we get hyper focused on one thing to the point that it excludes all other things that are going on around us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen
Sorry,
a
I'm
few
just trying to read
people.
that as well. I need glasses badly.
Oh no, I need to get new ones now that I got decent insurance again. I might have to do that next paycheck probably, and a haircut so this can stop falling in my face. Oh, I call some of what I have hamster head, the spinning wheel in the head. That's a pretty accurate description, both of autism and ADHD. But it's like the wheel is spinning in opposite directions, yet it's the weirdest thing in the world. You put someone with autism and ADHD in a room, and it's almost like this an instant friendship and a kinship forms from that very moment. It's the weirdest thing I have ever seen. There's this mutual understanding. I mean, even though the disabilities are different, there's a lot of overlap there. So I always found that kind of fascinating.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. A kinship with what?
So there's a lot of kinship between autism and ADHD. You put us in a room together, it's almost instant friendship, like immediately. It's crazy.
Did you see Colonel Kurtz's video on this on Brittany?
I haven't seen the Brittany one. I caught the one that she did the other day with Iron Celtic and shared it out.
She did an interview with that lawyer lady, Andrea something. And Andrea seems to think that there's more going on behind the scenes, and possibly maybe Brittany is much worse than we know. We're just not hearing it.
Well, here's the fact of the matter. A lot of people always say that. Remember when I told you they hold that disability over our head and make it impossible for us to get out of these things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've seen people who are like me with my form of autism under conservatorships. People who are completely capable individuals. But what these people will go and tell the judge and what people will believe in the back of their minds is insane. Lawyers tend to think in these situations that a judge made this decision the way that they did for a reason, that there's more that the judge knows than we. But I have a name for you all. Judge Nichols. We can't always believe that this judge has special information that we are not privy to. We can't always believe that judges make judgments in the best interests of the person being made for. The fact of the matter is, she was put into a conservatorship without her consent. At the time, she was her own guardian. She was her own adult self. What she wanted, her thoughts on the were never taken into any consideration. There's a reason why the disability community uses that hashtag, nothing about us without us. I don't care how disabled or mentally ill you are. You do not deserve to have your autonomy ripped away from you. You do not deserve to have your reproduction or any other medical decisions, the right to make them, taken away from you. You don't deserve to have other people take what you have rightfully earned away from you. The fact of the matter is, what do we know? We know that she has worked constantly, nonstop, ever since the conservatorship started. We've seen multiple advertisements for tour after tour, album after album. We see other troubled celebrities going to rehab for months in order to recover. We hear of other celebrities taking sabbaticals on exotic islands for months on end. Yet there she is. She gets a week in Maui every year. And she has to, for lack of a better term, get back on her stroll and go dancing and singing the way that she does without so much of a break is exhausting and extremely damaging medically to a human body.
Yeah, I get tired just watching her, for real.
Right? If you're not getting the proper rest that you need, if you're not taking proper breaks and vacations, I mean, shit. I get burnt out sometimes just working at a call center for 8 hours a day and having to try to go home and go to bed. I get overexhausted. She's doing far more than that. So, when people say there's more going on, it's more complicated than you think, it's really not. It's really not. The fact of the matter is, there were other options. I see no other evidence that any of those were even considered.
What were the other options?
They could have gone partial guardianship, which I was explaining when you came in. Partial guardianship or partial conservatorship is where the individual is still, by and large, allowed to make their own decisions, have access to their own money, what have you. But when it looks like the individual is going to do something that is detrimental to their mental or physical health or to someone around them, the conservator can then overrule that person in that particular instance. So they are allowed to keep their autonomy. They are allowed to have their circle of support and their therapy and what have you. And the conservator part of partial is they make sure that they are doing their therapy and going to their doctors and what have you. But they still have autonomy. For example, the fact that her having the IUD removed would in no way cause her any type of harm would mean that under partial guardianship, she would have been able to do so. And her dad wouldn't have been able to say dick about it. Now, if it
did she choose to put it in? That's my question. Whose choice was that?
It was her father's. He medically overruled her. Mm-hmm.
That's disgusting. Like, the way they dangle her kids over her head. And
Yep, it's what Greg Ellis talks about all the time. It was parental alienation. It wasn't a divorce way to take complete control over another person, but it was damn close. It's just nobody, no matter how mentally ill or disabled they are, deserve to have all their rights stripped from them, to the ability that they can't even really report the abuse that is going on towards them by the conservator without, it's almost impossible. It's giving another person far too much power over another person. And it is far too easy for people to use and abuse. Conservatorship was the reason why it came up with was for elderly folks with dementia. You know, people who have literally forgotten who they are. It was then turned and used against the disability community. And it was used to basically make us look incompetent and therefore give parents, caretakers, significant others complete control over us. And there was nothing a lot of them could do about it. There was really no recourse. And that's the situation we're looking at. In a partial guardianship, conservatorship, she would have had the ability to openly contest, to openly go to court and say, this conservator is not working for me. If you do not trust me to appoint my own, please have the court go and appoint a new one for me. You see what I'm saying? There's
absolutely.
less ability for abuse in a partial.
And I don't think the conservator should be paid by Brittany either. She shouldn't.
Yeah,
it's too
in most
complicated.
cases, yeah, conservators that are court appointed are usually what's most normal in most cases. Sometimes the parents are, in which case that's Social Security, and that's another bag of worms that would take hours and hours to explain. Social Security isn't messy monster, but yeah, she's literally funding all of this. This is what's most interesting to me. If she is that mentally ill that she needs someone making all these decisions for her, why in the name of God is she not in a mental health facility where she is getting the help that she needs? Why are they making her do all these shows? If her father had her best interests, and if she was as bad as the world seems to think that she is, why the hell is the court not overruling Mr. Spears and saying, no, she is going to this mental health facility where she will be evaluated, and then whatever her panel decides for her treatments will be what is mandated from here on out? Because, yeah, a lot of us who have been in dark places, myself included, when I lost my dad and I was trying to drink myself to death, yeah, I could go to work. I went to work every day. I busted it every day for people like me. Should I have been going to work at that time? Probably not. I should have probably, by the time I had gotten as bad as I did, maybe not necessarily put into a facility, but I definitely should have been more ardent about pursuing therapy and treatments for what was obviously extreme depression.
Yeah. What do you think about her wanting to be out of the conservatorship without being evaluated?
I understand it, but here's the thing, though. The sad part of the matter is, yes, she deserves to not have to go through any more crap. And I know how California laws go, and it has been allowed sometimes. But hers is, I hate to say it, is such a high-profile case. So, the only means that she has to prove her competence to the point that they will let her go is to have an evaluation done, not by men on daddy's payroll, not by anyone who is associated with the Spears family in any way, but an evaluation has to be done by completely independent doctors. Hell, I would even say out-of-state doctors. People who have no stake in this. And have them come and do the full evaluation, non-biased, no one there to line their pockets, just a full, honest evaluation. And then make a determination. That is going, I know she doesn't want to. I wouldn't want to either. But
no, she's been through enough. I don't blame her.
I don't either, but it's her best bet. That is the one way that she would be able to show the judge and the planet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can I respond to Pam real quick?
Yeah.
She was giving 8 vials of blood a week, she said in her statement. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
All right. Real Pam Stu said, I agree. She should be in a facility, not her home, unless they have documentation that she's a danger to herself and not this is horrible. She shouldn't be working for sake if she's mentally ill. Exactly. That's my point. If there's more going on behind closed doors that we don't know about, then why aren't the steps being put in place in order to get her the full-on help that she needs? Nurses in her home at all hours of the day is not mental health help. They are literally just pills at her and taking her blood. That is not going to help anyone's mental health. That is probably going to make it worse. You need to be medically overseen in a medical facility that has no connection to that family at all.
Absolutely agree. It was her next comment that I was responding to.
Yeah, exactly. See, I've been around hospitals, medical cells all my life. My mom at one point was a nurse's aide, is now a radiology technologist. I've seen people who've had horrible physical health because due to just overwork, being in the ER. I have felt like complete burnout, either autistic burnout or just normal. There's usually a difference between the two, but either way, just doing a freaking regular 9-to-5 job because of everything else I do, plus do that job, plus worrying about everybody else and their well-being and trying to take care of and trying to pay for everything and not get evicted. And that in and by itself seems enough to drive someone into burnout, physically, mentally. What she's doing is 1,000 times worse than even what I was going through. Because she doesn't get any breaks. Not even like a couple of hours to be left alone from these people, just to decompress, scream at the walls, rant at God if she wants to. You got to be able to have that, because the effect on your mental health, if you don't even get to have that, is devastating.
Yeah.
Is her father going to be answering all those questions? Well, that depends. If she's able to get out of the conservatorship, I know for a fact she intends to sue them all. If she is able to even kind of get a half win, and the judge simply says, we're going to put her on a partial guardianship, we are going to give her a independent court-appointed conservator to kind of overrule it, then yeah, she's going to go at him gun blazing. I know that for a fact. And I'm pretty sure most of the JD community would be lining up right behind her. There'll probably be new hashtags, Justice for Britney. And it's a disability rights issue. I take problems with people whenever they say what she's going through is patriarchy, it's misogyny. It's not. I'm going to tell you why it's not. Because sterilization against disabled people's will has been done a long, long time. Complete control over disabled people and mentally ill people has been done for a long time. And it hasn't just happened to women. It has also happened to men. I've seen a comment from Liz Fair. Has this happened to men? Yes. Yes, it has. Men have been, quote unquote, physically snipped or chemically, painfully sterilized to be able to keep the men from being able to produce children.
They used to do it to gay men back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, this has gone back all the way to the 20s. They do it to the men too. And look at the JRC. It is full of males and females who have had their autonomy ripped from them. And now they have nowhere to go. And even if they could run, they would simply be dragged right back as soon as they were found. That's what I'm talking about. It's not a female. Yes, it's about her reproductive rights. Absolutely. But even though it is, it's still not just a women's issue. It is a human issue. It is a disability rights issue because it is far time that people quit trying and taking from disabled and mentally ill people our right to autonomy over our own damn bodies. The fact that this has never, ever happened to me in regards to my reproduction is simply because my mom and dad weren't idiots. They had been around medical circles like far longer than a lot of people have even been born. My dad was head, when he was done being a cop in Pierce City, he was the head of security for a big hospital out here for years and years. So they were smart enough that thankfully I never had to deal with that. But there are a lot of disabled people that do. And there's a lot of disabled people who, just like her, have had their rights stripped away, their autonomy entirely taken, their sense of identity stolen, going back years and years and years. And though there is evidence of good conservatorships where the kid is not being abused in any way, shape, or form, yet that kid still doesn't have any rights or say so. And even in the best of the situation, that is not okay. It is not okay. To constantly have our ability to make any decisions for ourselves or even understand constantly questioned all the time, when that is never done to a normal person who flips their shit and goes off the deep end and nobody ever does anything to them, That is not okay. Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
And that's why we've been watching this so closely. It's why we watched a JD versus AH so closely. It's why I had to become a part of the JD community, because I knew I saw it from an angle nobody else would see it. I knew I would see it. When he confirmed the ADHD diagnosis, that they wouldn't see it from the angle of how many of us have been controlled by significant others, have been abused, have been murdered, have been raped. The numbers are astronomically high. And these people like Mr. Spears, people like AH, they prey on us. Like, you think she didn't, as soon as she met him, she didn't sniff him out and see someone who was vulnerable at the time, someone who was a little bit different that she could play. It happened all the time to us. So I knew I needed to come in and say something, because unfortunately, we have this almost childlike desire to want to believe in people, is what I like to call it. And in spite of how jaded I am, even now, I still have that to a point. And so does he. We want to believe, and we will keep helping these people, keep helping them, and keep helping them against our own judgment, in spite of all red flags, until they do something that's irrevocable. And by then the damage is done, or we're dead, or we're horribly, horribly maimed. Or in JD's case, had his fingers severed, his dignity taken, his career savaged, his mental health destroyed, before finally, yeah. That's why I had to become a part of it, because most people wouldn't see it from that angle, or even know how many of us it's happened. It's an epidemic. I did the numbers on one of my videos. 1.5% people with disabilities and mental illness are 1.5% more likely to experience violence by the hands of a significant other, parent, or caregiver. 1.5% more likely to experience sexual violence. 1.5% more likely to experience violent crime. So, those numbers are terrifying, and nobody talks about it. So that's kind of why I started to get started on it. I never thought it would actually draw me to all the things I've been drawn to in this time. But now, gosh, my channel's still little, but it's grown. I never expected that all of this would all coincide. The thing with JD, finding out the JRC was still torturing people. The stuff that came out just now about Brittany. And it all relates to each other. It all relates. But unless somebody like me or Jen's another JD, so by the way, who's part of my actually autistic hashtag, she retweets you guys all the time. And you don't see it unless there's one of us there to remind people or let them know for the first time.
I've told a friend of mine countless times about Johnny Depp, and still to this day, she calls it a divorce spat.
No. It's about
unfreaking believable.
It's about male DV. It's about violence and manipulation and the near murder of someone with a disability by a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
He could have very easily ended up on that disability memorial website back in 2015, 2016. He came close twice. It's not a divorce spat when the other person almost killed the other one. It's not another
More
divorce
than
spat,
once.
right? And this mutual violence thing, God, that kills me. I'm like, there's always in abuse relationships, there is someone has all the power, the other person doesn't. That's it. Mutual indicates that the power level between the two is mutual. That's not how abuse works. They're trying to equate mutual abuse basically to two men getting in a bar fight. Yeah. Angie, well, Roseanne, if somebody tries to put you into a conservatorship, you need to get yourself a good disability rights lawyer, which is your right by ADA law. You also have a right to an advocate to be in the room with you of your own choice by ADA and the Disability Bill of Rights. So if anybody tries to pull that, you get a hold of a lawyer immediately. Do not second guess this. And go to a Center for Independent Living. You can go to NAMI. If you're neurodiverse, you can go to, oh gosh, there's Autrites. There's all kinds of groups out there.
That's if you're American. Are you American, Rose? I don't know why. In my head, I was thinking you were British.
Autrites is international.
Oh, okay, cool.
They have a London branch and they have a Dublin branch, as well as others. There's also Disability Rights International. So they are definitely a good group to be taking a look at.
I would say that's a good first step. Know your rights. And don't let anybody tell you any different.
I would recommend talking to people first. They're not just US anymore. They are international. And there is a people first group in every major city, almost throughout the entirety of the world. So, yeah, we're kind of everywhere now. Because we thought it was important. Disabled people need to know what their protections are. And yeah, I'll be leaving this stream up, Roseanne. And also in JD's case, and I've pointed this out before, particularly in the incident where she was alone with him withholding meds. If he got pissed enough, he could hit her with federal charges for abuse and or neglect of the elderly and or disabled persons. Because due to A, his blindness, B, his ADHD, he could nail her to the wall with that if she wants to play dirty. If she tries to open the door to his medical records, I say let her have it. There's no statute on that. I went ahead and looked it up just in case. I didn't want to say anything that wasn't entirely accurate. But yeah, if she wants to kick open that door, all right, but she's not going to like what he ends up finding out what his rights happen to be.
I can't can't leave the doctor handed his meds over to another addict, because she is. She's an addict too. You just handed addiction meds to another addict to dispense to their addict husband. Am I making sense?
I don't think. I loathe this woman. I do. But I will never agree, even to someone that I loathe, that is a disgusting human being, that anyone ever be appointed someone who has complete, utter control over everything that they do and that they have no autonomy. As much as I loathe her, no, I would never agree to that. I think she needs to be in jail. I think she needs to face the consequences of her own actions, but I do not think I don't believe her autonomy should be ripped away from her. I think she made her bed and she needs to lie in it.
I agree with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I have to agree. You have people like AH, like Evan Rachel Wood, and they make it their business to destroy people. Why? The almighty dollar. These people face no consequences. There are no mental evaluations done. There is no one who steps in, even with, I'm sorry, clearly, AH does have mental issues. I'm not saying this to shame her in any way, even though I don't like her. There are a lot of people with autism that I have advocated for that I think are garbage human beings, but that's still not the point. And they face no consequences, and people applaud them. They call them beautiful and brave and stunning. And then you have people like Brittany, like JD, who go through hell, have their entire lives destroyed, or in one case, having their whole sense of self destroyed, their autonomy stolen, their personhood stolen, which not even AH deserves. By courts, no less, and judges. That should scare everyone. Because now we live in a world where only accusations means it's true. So that means we now live in a world where someone can literally accuse you when you have a bad day of being mentally ill. And in the culture we live in, then somebody can file for a conservatorship with no due process and no ability to stop it. We live in a very scary time. And we should all take that extremely seriously. And this is why both of these cases are extremely important. Just as much as the JRC is extremely, extremely important. That's kind of my viewpoint on that. Sorry if I got off on a little bit on a rant there.
No, go for it.
Yes, another thing that gets to me, give me all the details about you, and total refusal to hand over any information, stalling every way they can. That's for both AH and Mr. Spears, by the way. Never is he asked to prove that he is a fit conservator over his daughter. Interesting, isn't it? The disabled person has to go through multiple evaluations to prove that they deserve to be their own person. But the person who's the conservator does not in any way have to prove that they are a fit conservator. That sort of thing needs to change. And
There's
then you
nothing,
have,
like absolutely no hoops they have to jump through?
nope. How do you think Mr. Spears has kept his conservatorship so long? I don't know whether he's just good at dodging all the checks and
Greasing
balances.
palms. I
I do.
assumed he was paying people under the table.
Yeah, in California, it's a lot more lax. There are in some states where laws have changed where conservators are expected to meet criteria constantly, all the time, because having that much control can lead to abuse, and often does.
Where does her mom come in with all of this? Because she's not squeaky clean either.
I think her mom stays out of it, to be honest. Because I've never seen her say much one way or the other. And that's the most damaging to the child of all. When you have one parent that's the authoritarian and the other parent that does nothing. How much it must wreck you. That's how you get an AH, by the way, folks. If you want to know how people like AH become the way they are, if you have one absolute authoritarian figure, like her father, who would abuse his power all the time, and you have a mother that would neither say yay or nay and would do nothing at all to protect their children, it breeds contempt. It breeds anger. It leads to, in women's cases, a complete mistrust of men. It leads to eventually hatred of all men. It leads eventually to, well, if I hate all men and all men are bad, then I'm just going to use them for what I can get.
That's AH in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. That's how these people get created.
I don't think we'll ever fully understand, because you got to be, no, I don't want to say crazy, but you got to be kind of crazy just to understand their thinking, you know?
You have to come out of an abusive household, I think.
Yeah.
Because even those of us who had the parent that cared, we can understand from a certain viewpoint. That doesn't justify anything that she's done. Because Brittany grew up in the same atmosphere that she did. And she's an entirely different person. She's extremely caring. She's extremely trusting, too much so. She cares about her fans. You can see it. Just like JD, she hugs her fans. She always tries, even when she's been worked beyond the point of exhaustion, to let her fans know how much she loves and cares for each one of them. She does that. And I'm not even a fan of the woman. I hate her music.
I don't really follow her career either, but yeah, I agree. I've seen some of it.
She grew up, and I'll think about that. These are two separate girls who grew up in almost identical households. One bred AH, who gave in to the anger. I, too, to a point, gave in to the anger. I grew out of it eventually, but I had a whole lot of therapy. This other person turned into almost a female JD, if you think about it, who, just like him with his mother, just became more empathetic, more loving, more understanding of others because of the experience. So that's
what do you think about Whitney?
Whitney reminds me of my brother a lot.
How so?
Yeah. They're the children that watched this stuff happen, had it happen to them, and it traumatized them so much that they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. They just want to pretend it never happened. And that's how they choose to live their lives. But in Whitney's case, unlike my brother, she had a sibling who basically grew into her father. And a lot of times you have that one sibling that becomes submissive to the older sibling in a trauma bonding. And that's Whitney. Whitney's the submissive sister, the one who is less likely to fight and more likely to curl into a ball.
Yeah.
And when you're used to being dominated like that by an older sibling, especially when in later years they became abusive, you just go with it. You don't even think about it. You don't even think about it. Somewhere in your mind, because Amber told her whole life, I take care of you. I do this. I do that. Now it's your turn to do something for me. And if you don't do this for me, then what was all that we went through? You don't really love me. That sort of thing. We heard her do it to Johnny. You think she's not doing it to Whitney? You think she hasn't threatened her son? You know damn right well she has. Any sign of dissemblance from her sister, immediately that son would be brought up like that. I mean, she bankrolls her sister now. And now
that's one thing I kind of disagree with. I think Whitney would be her, like, submissive with or without the money, because it's who she is on the inside.
True. It's just that the fact that she bankrolls her is another way in which she has that control over her.
Yeah. Amber was bankrolling her dad too. If you read through the text messages, you can see a few messages between her and her mom. And she's like, "Why did dad text me last night?" And she's like, "Oh, he probably wants more money." So I don't know how much she was giving her parents, but she was definitely handing over a good chunk of it.
Yep.
That wasn't even her money. It was Johnny's. Let's be real.
Yep, it was. I'm like, so that was you who made all those Pirates movies? No, then it's not your damn money. And you have zero right to it. But I should get this in alimony because it's the life he accustomed me to. Well, you can get just as easily accustomed to the life you had before. You made all this money, right? You're independently wealthy, right? Why do you need alimony? Bullshit. And just a shout out to Rose. Honey, I know this is a scary topic. It's a hard topic on both sides, but people don't think about it from this angle often, and they need to. It's traumatizing. It's hard. I say it at the beginning of every single one of my JRC videos, but as traumatizing it is, as hard as it is to watch or discuss, it must, because people's lives depend upon it. Literally people's lives.
If you need to take a break every now and then, please do, because everybody needs breaks here and there.
Oh no, I mean, next weekend I'm not streaming. I probably won't go on any streams, maybe on Friday, but other than that, I am being dragged to Silver Dollar City. If anyone knows about it out in Branson, it's a theme park, being dragged by my mom. And I get up ridiculously early, and I go and I do my work, and then I do my video in the morning, and then immediately when I get off work, hey, jump on this stream, jump on that stream, and just kind of, I talked.
You're in high demand. Everybody loves you.
I know, but at the end of the day, though, I've got to have time so that I don't burn out entirely. to be able
Exactly.
to
I agree.
just detoxify, you know. I'm saying hi. Hi, Echo Spice. Hi, Nikki.
Diamond, I agree. I think she's still giving her dad money too.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Rose. I appreciate it. I have to. Like, most of this community didn't even know about the JRC and the freaking horrors that had taken place there and what's being done to those kids every single day before I started basically telling the whole world about it again. And some people on that video couldn't even watch the first one all the way through because of the actual live footage of it happening. And I understand that. And I understand a lot of people felt uncomfortable. But kind of like a lot of old war footage, it's the sort of thing that people need to see in order to comprehend, to understand what's at stake. And with these cases, you said it earlier, Captain Obvious, people don't seem to comprehend or understand what's at stake. They don't.
No.
You can join the disability community at any time, at any age. You can be born with it. There can be a terrible accident. Something later on as you age could go wrong. And when those things happen, then you have to face things like this. So That's what makes it so important. It can happen to anyone. What happened to JD can and does happen to people all the time, especially the neurodiverse, because we do have that naivety. We do have that little bit of childlike trust, no matter how jaded we become. People like Britney Spears, in spite of being how famous she is, can have that slapped on her or slapped on them at any time. And a lot of them, like her, at the time it happens, don't even have any idea what their rights are and what, if anything, they're able to do about it or how they would even fight it. And there are disability groups all over the world, but we don't get airtime. The JRC, we are lucky they got any airtime at all what happened there. People, that's why I do what I do. That's why there's 1,000 disability YouTubers everywhere trying to get the information out that other disabled people need to know how to fight this stuff. And yes, Angie, absolutely. I know the ADA forward, backwards, and sideways. I know the Disability Bill of Rights. I know the IDEA, which is the, oh God, I'm trying to think. Individually devised, I'd have to go back to the acronym. And basically, it is in regards to a student's right to an assessment for their disability by their school for special education programs if they come in with a diagnosis. But yeah, I've studied all of that for years. I've been a part of laws that have been made out in my state that have since gone out nationally and internationally. So yeah, I think it's extremely important that we read every single thing we can get our hands on to the point that our fingers bleed and they're memorized, just in case somebody at some point tries this. Thank God. I don't know. Did AH actually try to go get a conservatorship over him? Did she threaten it? Because that would be the one case where she wouldn't have a freaking prayer.
She petitioned the court to have him evaluated, to force him into anger management and to have the case reviewed by ex-judges who are now doing their own thing, but they gave a list of the specific judges. And I was like, I wonder if they're all dirty. Look into them. And you know they are. If
Oh
those are the
yeah.
judges they're recommending, they're dirty as heck.
Oh yeah. It's just if they were already divorced, she would have no grounds at all to have a conservatorship over him. The only one who would be able to do that probably would have been his sister.
I
But
think this was for the divorce.
ah, God, that's why I don't want to think about it. Abusing him, doing the shit that she was doing, and then having complete full power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's horrifying. And at the end of the day, I wish to God that Brittany had someone like Adam Waldman on her side.
Yeah.
If you
Everybody needs a Waldman.
Right? They need that guy. That one guy. And there are probably quite a few disability rights attorneys out there that she could get a hold of. But if anybody tells her go to the ACLU, all of us, like in mass, would show up around her. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. They will throw you under the bus, Brittany. They will take all your money. Don't do it. For the
I've
love of
never
God.
trusted the ACLU. I didn't have a reason not to. It was just a gut feeling.
They didn't get involved with the Judge Rotenberg Center. I thought they weren't involved at all. But apparently, when I had to bow out back in 2014, when I was thrown out of the street at 3 a.m. in the morning and had to end up moving in with my mom to not be homeless, apparently then in 2014, the ACLU finally deigned to actually help us with the JRC. And yeah, by then it was already too little too late. At that point, they were just trying to look good.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Right? I'm saying the same thing, Robin. All of us are saying, don't do it, Britt. Don't do it. Justice for Johnny is 100% behind you, but we're telling you, the moment your dad looks away for 5 seconds, please look into the corruption of the ACLU. Don't do it. Please, go with one of the many other groups that are out there. Go to NAMI, National Organization for Mental Illness. They're an advocacy group as well as many other things. If you need a lawyer that specializes for this, for those with mental health issues, for the love of God, please go with their recommendations. They know what the hell they're talking about. Get someone who specializes in this sort of thing. Keep the ACLU as far away from that girl as we can possibly get them. They will do 1,000 more times harm than good. Not to mention the ACLU doesn't even have attorneys that specialize in conservatorship. All they could do is literally just tokenly show up there and then take all the credit. That's pretty much it.
You think the ACLU is going to face any repercussions for this in the long run?
I would love with all my heart to say yes, but here's the only way they would face repercussions is with a major class action lawsuit. It can't just be JD alone.
Yeah.
We're talking people who get involved who have also been Me Too'd. We're talking a class action lawsuit with Jeremy Renner, with Brad Pitt, with all these guys that have been Me Too'd, class action lawsuit.
Marilyn Manson.
Oh, yeah. Getting a massive lawsuit together. Then they could stand a chance because then they can pull resources.
I don't see Johnny joining anything like that. I think he's going to be done after this last case.
I do too. At this point, he kind of wants the exact same thing Brittany wants.
Yeah, he just wants to be left alone to do his own thing.
And they want a vacation. Probably away from everyone, including people they like.
He moved
Just
to Paris for a reason. He had his like privacy there.
exactly. They basically want to probably take a good 3 to 5 years and disappear off the planet for a minute and then come back. Just to decompress from the years of shit both of them have gone through.
I was going to mention that earlier when you were talking about people like, oh, just run away. How do you run away when you're Britney Spears and you're literally one of the most recognized faces on the frickin' planet? Where do you run to?
And also, when you have a conservator, there is no running.
No.
That someone won't find you and take you back. Which is
No, she can't even
horrifying.
leave the house without having permission.
Yeah, this is not even equivalent to the JD situation where he could at least walk out the front door. She cannot leave her front door without permission. Period.
Thankfully, he did walk out the door.
Right?
Thankfully, he had a second and third house to go to.
And I do think he watches this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I've already seen Victoria Mary put up her Free Britney, so I don't doubt for a moment that he doesn't empathize with her deeply.
Victoria Mary?
Yeah, she put it up on her Instagram.
Who is that? I'm sorry.
She's Shane McGowan's wife, Crock of Gold.
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yeah. So
I recognize the name, but I didn't know where from.
Yeah, and he knows. He keeps his eyes somewhat on the news, and I bet he empathizes with her deeply.
Oh, Amber watches us too, no doubt.
Oh, God. Well, Amber, if you watch this.
Every time we say something, she puts up a picture on Instagram proving us wrong.
Well, I hate to say it, but I'm more attractive than that woman.
I agree.
We're all more attractive than that woman. You want to know what makes us more attractive than that woman? None of us have ever taken a shit in our significant other side of the bed. I don't care.
Have I? Ooh, mystery. Just kidding. I've never clapped in the bed.
How hot anyone is. The moment you take a dump in your then significant other's bed, like how are you dateable from that point?
And she thought that was funny too, like
God. So yeah, when Brittany says she's a prisoner, she's not kidding. It's not a joke, and it's not funny. That's the kind of lives that people with conservatorships live.
I can't believe it's continued for 13 years. That's the most insane part. I can kind of understand if it was just the beginning, but 13 years.
I think, kind of like AH, he got a taste for it. Her dad.
Yeah.
He got a taste for all of that power. He got a taste for all that control, and he liked it too much. So she has done reevaluations from time to time to renew the conservatorship because that's law. That's a check and balance put in place that's supposed to prevent abuse. But when Daddy Dearest is lining the psychiatrist's pockets, how is that a fair evaluation? That's why I'm saying she needs a court-appointed evaluation again, but it needs to be done. What needs to be ordered is a completely independent party that Daddy Spears and all of his agents and all of her family are ordered to not go anywhere near. They are not to be at that appointment. They are not to be in that driveway. They are not to be within 5 miles of the place while the evaluation is going on. They should get nowhere near their offices or have any interactions with those who would do the reevaluation at all.
Yeah.
That is what should be ordered. In my opinion, it's her best bet. And yes, there are cases in California where people have done it without evaluations. But unfortunately, in this case, yeah.
In your own expertise, do you think Brittany will get out of this?
I hope so. But with the JRC and everything, after the 13 years when we finally got our leg up with the FDA ban, and then what I've learned since then, that hope's dwindling. I'll still fight. It's what I always do. People like me, myself, like Brittany, we're fighters. It's what we do. But yeah. Okay. So Rose, you said, so no, she cannot, she can go to a GYN only with her father's consent.
And he chooses a doctor.
Exactly. Yeah. Basically, yeah, she can't go with her boyfriend in her car. Her daddy must approve for when she is able to see her boyfriend. He approves of everyone that goes in and out of her life. And that's how it is. And people argue, well, they need that protection if they don't understand if someone's trying to take advantage of them. I'm like, well, then tell that to all the poor women out there who have been taken advantage by women, by men, by bosses. Do they deserve to have their autonomy ripped away and only have approved people go near them because people are afraid they might be taken advantage of again? The logic doesn't work. It doesn't hold up. And I'm very much, as you all know, a very logic-driven person.
Me too. No pun intended.
Yep. My goodness, we've gone on for an hour and 27 minutes. Well, we definitely breached both subjects. And and of course, I can't even think without the JRC, because I'll be honest, guys, I think about those kids in that hellhole every single day. I go to bed at night and I think about that there are some students there who are being punished by being deprived of sleep. I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. And I'm thinking about this case, thinking about JD's case, and all these people and how it intersects. I guess that's kind of, we just got to keep fighting. Even when the hope dwindles, we got to keep fighting. Because every once in a while, miracles do happen, and they happen when you least expect them to. But all right, guys, I see that soup is on. So, and we're about an hour and 30 minutes in. So this is about the time, Captain Obvious, I wrap things up anyway. I'm not like Rob or some of these guys that can go for 2 hours. So we are going to go ahead and end this stream for today. So folks, in regards to my updates, I told you next week I'm going to keep doing my videos on the JRC every day. Like I told you, till that place is either burnt to the ground or closed for life. I'm going to be covering preferably both. And I will be also covering the updates with how things go with the Free Brittany and Free JD. But other than that, for the next week, well, more like next weekend, I'm going to be taking a break from streaming. I'll probably be on Rob's Wednesday night panel. I will try to convince him to please, for the love of God, start doing them earlier, because I try to be in bed by 6:30. I get up ridiculously early.
He's a night owl, man.
He really is, but I'm like, please go back to the 4:30s or 5:30s on Wednesday. Rob, come on, for me. I don't like cutting out so quick. It makes me feel bad. But anyway, so I'll definitely be on that panel, guys. I'll keep doing these videos, but next weekend I'm going to take a little bit of a break, go have some fun. I have to work the following Sunday because then I start regular schedule. Yay.
Can I remind you really quick? Elizabeth wanted you to post the links for the things you were listing earlier for Rose.
Yeah, I can go ahead and post the links. I'll probably not right now though. I'm kind of brain dead. I'll probably put it up. Rose, are you on Twitter? I think Angie is. Are you on Twitter?
Might have left already.
Well, I'll give them to Angie and I'll set them up in Twitter too. That way, if I don't get her to her sometime this evening, that Angie would hopefully be able to reach out to her and get them to her. And guys, Captain Obvious, I know you stream randomly. Do you have any planned live streams at any point?
No, I was thinking about going live on Thursdays because nobody else has that day yet, but I have absolutely no set plans. Flying by the seat of my pants.
So, and otherwise, if you want to know when Captain Obvious goes live, folks, subscribe to her channel and hit the notification so that you know when she's going live. And everybody,
Smash that button.
as a favor to me, when you go over to Soup Stream, if you could please say either Tiff Raid or Spilling Tea Raid, I deeply appreciate it. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for coming today. I know I threw everything together last minute, but as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you all wonderful folks have a good one.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for having me.
Absolutely.